Welcome to Season 3 of the Lessons from Sports podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Partello, and after 10 years working in the media, 10 years of working in the professional sports front offices, and a career as a DJ, I decided it was time to step away and take all of those experiences, put them together, and co-founded Cuento, which is a brand marketing and experience consulting group here in San Diego, California. I started this podcast as an opportunity to introduce as many people as possible to the amazing people that I get to interact with at some point through my career, or even people I'm just meeting today. I think about back in my life when I was younger, I would have killed to have access to hear from these types of people, to see the things that they've learned in their lives. And like many things in business, I firmly believe that there are so many lessons from sports that can be applied and easily understood in business and in life to find success or happiness or whatever it is that you're chasing. So Episode 1, I actually sit down with an old buddy of mine, Peter Szabo. Peter's career has been crazy. So Peter and I met on the media side, and we're going to spend a lot of time in this podcast kind of reminiscing. We hadn't chatted in a while, and so you can kind of feel that energy of just two friends that are very aligned in the way we've gone about our business. But Peter actually provided me my first big break in the business when I was an intern making my move to a full-time job. It was on Peter's recommendation. So I'm really excited for you to hear all the different kind of crazy stories from back in the day, but also the path in which Peter took around getting in on the radio side, but then going into the technology with Shazam and Spotify, and now starting his own company as well. So I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation between me and my buddy Peter. You know, you were what, 25 years old as the marketing director at a top 10 market radio station. Like, you're young, dude. You're younger than I am. So like I was your intern as an older person, but
you're so much older than me. You're right. Yeah, for sure.
I was the oldest intern because I started much later, but yeah, dude, it was crazy. So Peter Szabo is our guest today. And yeah, so we've known each other for a really long time, and obviously had a love of music, and people who know me know I didn't try to work in sports. I tried to work in music, and loved music. We started at Kiss 108 together, which was, if you didn't grow up in Boston, was the top 40 station, still is the top 40 pop, like monster radio station. Five generations of Bostonians that have, like what then Maddie in the morning. But Peter, if you could, do just a quick intro on you, your journey and what you're up to today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah, born and raised in Boston, loved music, never knew it could be a career. Always just loved having the radio on and Casey Kasem's Top 40 Countdown and those types of things. And then through some fate and luck, ended up in a TV studio once and saw a TV show being produced and put together, and absolutely loved the behind the scenes of it. And there was just a magic there, and I really loved that. Then I got an internship at a radio station in Hungary, where I literally walked in on day one and said, they asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, I want to do TV. And they said, well, we're going to show you radio. And 2 days later, I was hooked. You couldn't believe I could make a living out of this amazing thing, music, that's been a part of my life. And again, just saw the behind the scenes, saw the opportunities there. And there are so many things that went into that, of people that helped me get there, and family, and pieces that came together in the right way. But, truly seeing that music could be a career was huge. From there, as you mentioned, we met at Kiss 108. Before that, I interned and worked at different radio stations, both in Syracuse, where I went to college, back in Boston, Kiss 108, Jammin' 94.5, then the Entercom Suite, Star 93.7. We had some fun times there. I'm sure we'll get into that. And then eventually just kind of got to the point where I love Boston. It's my hometown. I very proudly supporting my Bruins today, wearing this, but just needed to switch it up a little bit, and ended up in Los Angeles. So moving to LA 16 years ago. Here got to go from traditional radio to digital radio when Pandora was getting going. That was an absolute blast. Then got a call to open the Shazam LA office. One of the greatest magic tricks of all time is how the heck you take a phone out of your pocket, push a button, and it recognizes a song. We were brought in to help them turn that into an actual business. That was great. We made TV ads Shazamable. We provided artist managers and labels with a ton of data to help them grow their career. Then from that, opened my own company, Idea Factory, where we connect artists and brands. Along the way, I've had stops at Spotify during the pandemic. So all sorts of fun stuff. We'll get into whichever parts are most relevant. But yeah, that's kind of the quick overview.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a bunch there, but Hungary, what led you to, was that a study abroad opportunity? How did you end up there?
Yeah, so that's one of my incredibly fortunate family connections. So we split our summers in growing up between Boston and Montreal. My mom's side of the family was all in Montreal because that's where they ended up after fleeing World War II. As communism fell in Hungary, my aunt and uncle, my mom's brother and his wife, they were partners at a law firm in Montreal, but had been doing some exploratory work in Hungary as communism fell to see if there was a business to open a branch of the law firm there. And after a couple of years of exploration, the corporate entity in Montreal goes, "Nah, there's not enough here. Come on back." And my uncle goes, "Are you crazy? The communism just fell. This country's about to open up."
Right.
And so they left as partners of a law firm in, I was trying to do the math on this, I think in their early 40s, and left that very nice life to move to Hungary and open their own law firm. And in the next few years, they would bring Pepsi and Auchan and Cineplex Odeon, these huge companies, into Budapest, into Hungary, for this new market that had just exploded. As part of that legal work, they started working with a group, Metro Media, that owned radio stations in the US and then had also bought some in Hungary. Through that work, they made an introduction. I said, "I'll show up and do whatever the heck you want." They actually didn't even know what interns were. And there's like, unpaid labor? What is this? But luckily, there were three North American, US gentlemen who knew what internships were and were very kind to have me come on and basically help out through the summer. And that was what got me into it from there. So very, very amazing situation how that came about.
How long
and I was there for the summer. And that was great. But the other duality part that was interesting is we grew up speaking Hungarian at home. So I was able to speak with the local staff in Hungarian and then the general managers, some of whom spoke some Hungarian, some of whom didn't at all. And I got a really nice duality of just understanding work dynamics by being able to speak fluently in Hungarian and then obviously English as well. So that led to a really cool dynamic of it as well.
And I think one of the things when I talk about you and your career is, you started on the marketing side. You were the digital guy when I met you, right? Yeah. And transitioned to become a marketing director of a radio station. But you took the leap to sales, which it's so funny. In my career, Jim Rushton, who is like a mentor and friend, he's a sales guy. And you should be in sales. And I fought it tooth and nail. You didn't. You saw it earlier, much earlier. What helped you make that leap to go? Because you left you went to sell at KISS, which was like, what is he doing? We're on the marketing side. We're living the dream, and he's gonna go schlep and cold call.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a couple factors that stand out that in hindsight made it look like the right path. There were a bunch of agonizing months, probably years, thinking about making the leap because it is a big leap. Marketing, we know what we're doing. We had some fair success. We were really enjoying it too. It's a great life. But honestly, doing the web stuff, as we called it, hey, this internet thing might make some money. At KISS 108, leading station was phenomenal. There was so much power there. But then going over to Star 93.7, which we were second, third, fourth, depending on the demo.
Brand. Yeah.
We had, Challenger brand for sure. We had to figure out how to help the sales team win ad buys. And if you remember all those brainstorms we would have, Joanna Ducci and her team, they were great, but they had to go out and figure out how to win business. And so we were the ones coming up with, do this for this, auto brand, the car dealership, remote, whatever we would call them, appearance on Saturday that you helped bring all the great street teamers to. We had to figure out how to win business. And that got my creativity going. And I had a mentor, her well as well, Bev Tilden, who was just flowing with ideas and the osmosis that I learned from her of like, just, it's always ideas, come up with ideas. we would help Joanne and her sales team come up with ideas. And it was really about a year into it that I start noticing as I'm walking home. You and I were working late nights all the time, and we had that hustle and drive all the time. We're like walking out of the radio station at 7, 8 o'clock at night sometimes. And sometimes during the day when I would notice what the salespeople drive in, and I'm like, wait, they're driving in a BMW. I'm driving home in a Nissan. I'm coming up with the ideas here. Like, why don't I just go sell this thing? I think I can do that part. I don't know what goes into it. And it was a lot of conversations. Remember Jim Rushton? Excuse me, not Jim Rushton. Jim Sheehan.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're talking about Rush too, but Jim Sheehan was marketing director at WAAF, the rock station down the hall. And him and I had some amazing conversations about what it means to go from marketing to sales. And if I recall right, he tried it and it wasn't for him and he went back. And that also was it. Like, you could do it, and if it doesn't work, you come back. Right. That helped. Talking to Bev about it helped. And it was one of those of like, and to your point, going back to KISS to sell was big.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen Toll, who was the general sales manager at KISS, when I left as whatever I was called, internet content director or something, doing the websites. The day I left and said goodbye to her, she looked at me and she said, "You'll be back." And I have no idea why she said that. To this day, she, I'm sure, has all sorts of foresight into it. But she said to me, "You'll be back," and went over to Star. You and I were at Entercom. We had a blast together. But as I started thinking about where I wanted to go sell, Joanne was great and Star was cool, and that could have been one path. But thinking back to Mary Ellen's point, "You'll be back," I thought, well, if I'm going to sell anywhere, if I'm going to start somewhere, selling at the number one top 40 brand that people know and love is probably a better idea. And so I called Mary Ellen. I said, "Remember when you said I'm going to be back? What do you think?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's talk." And that led to going back to KISS, where then you said cold calling. I mean, that was the thing. It was like, yeah, here's the phone book. Have at it. Go find us some business.
Come here. Right. Yeah, you're welcome to come. And I don't know how it works in radio today, but I know back then, you were working off a draw and you're going in the whole week one and you had to dig yourself out of it. And I had a lot that terrified me until it didn't, right? Like there was a moment where I had to do that, and Rushton and I took that leap and I said, I'm going to start from zero, and whatever I earned for the radio station with my ideas, but it took a little bit of confidence.
I don't know if you have these too. I have people that stand out as characters in the kind of look back of my story. Bob Abbesty. Bob Abbesty as a seller who was a dentist and just knew he could sell. You know him at all?
I know the name. Yeah.
So he was kind of one of the more seasoned people on the team. He had been there a minute, but his origin story was that he was a dentist and just wanted to sell, showed up at some radio station, was like, I don't even need money yet. Just let me prove this to you. Wow. Guy became one of the senior sellers, and he did it. So this was the point of, you go out there, you make these connections, you make partnerships happen. That was great. But the other part was coming from the marketing background. And the other reason that I was hesitant to get into sales is I thought it was the ice to the Eskimos. I've got to sell this thing. You're walking in the door. I got to sell you this car. And I had to step back from that and realize it was all about finding a mutually beneficial relationship if it was there. And if it wasn't there, it wasn't going to be there. And that's fine too. But where can I go to find these? And then the thing that I was very lucky is, if you remember kind of driving around on the weekends, you see all the billboards all over. I would always see like, oh, that billboard, what can we do for that brand? And then I would fire off an idea, and that generally leads to conversation instead of like, I can get you your commercials at $10 cheaper. Right. That's a transaction. That's very different. Yeah. Trying to frame it in that mutually beneficial way was super helpful. And that was a core part of really, I think, what helped me just get some traction, along with patience from the team. Mary Ellen helped a ton. We had a great team at KISS there, who everyone's got their own book of business, but they were all helpful too. It's not like, it's like, oh, good luck, kid. Everyone was helpful. It was great.
And then the next transition is going from sales to leadership of sales leadership, which, that's a completely different. A lot of times when you do that, especially on the radio side, you're taking a step back financially to progress your career and having to have that long-term vision on where you want to go. Many people stay and just keep selling because they can crush it and they're driving their nice car, living in their nice house, and life is good. You decided to take that leap to go onto the leadership side. What was the end goal that you had in mind at that point that you were like, this is the right move at this moment?
Yeah, it's honestly, I wish I could say I had one of these like 5-year, 10-year plans. It's never been how I was. I look back on that time of being able to lean in and do things that I liked, and good things flowed from there. as I look at it in hindsight, I realized it was because I was in a great environment. I was at Kiss 108 with Mary Ellen Toll, with Mary Mena, with Jake Carger, starting with Bev Tilden originally. By the way, 4 women, where there's a huge dynamic we can talk about there.
For sure.
4 women who built an amazing environment at that standalone radio station on the banks of the beautiful Mystic River there on Route 99 in Medford, which doesn't even exist anymore. But the standalone building, we went into that building, heads down, and we built stuff.
Yep.
So your question about going from sales to leadership, I enjoy coaching others. I enjoy helping others. I babysat when I was a teenager. That part in me is just there, and I enjoyed that. And so when the opportunity came up later in my career to also guide people, I loved doing that. Your point about it even starts before sales. The teams we had that went and shot Kiss Concert, Monster Jam. I remember we started out with 3 of us, 4 of us, and then it was, oh yeah, this works great. Let's have 2 cameras. Let's have 3 cameras. Let's have a video camera. Let's have a dedicated person doing crowd shots. That grew because you as much as me enjoyed doing it, enjoyed having a team, had other people we could bring in that wanted to be a part of it. And there's so many dynamics that go into that. We were having fun. I remember you coming to me being like, this person wants to be on our team. This person wants to be on our team, because you created a great environment for them. And that's the part that then becomes a magnet, to attract other people that are like-minded, that are mission-driven for it, as opposed to same thing. Yeah, show up. I'm making $15 an hour. If you pay me 20, I'll come do your event instead of bartend. Well, that's not really how this works.
No. And if we're going to play the name game, we have to shout out Joe Mazzi.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Who sat in that same area. And, my dream was to be on the air, and I started as an on-air, intern, but then I got handed off to Joe, who allowed me to meet you. And, Joe, I remember, it's funny, you told the story of when you left Kiss. I had to walk into Joe, and Joe had a different way of saying it to me. What he said to me was, you're on your way, kid. And my hunch is one day I'll end up working for you. And he shook my hand and he said, go get him. And I remember having a tear in my eye because he was
chills. I just got chills down my back as you said that. That's amazing.
Like, man. And funny, years later, we tried to recruit Joe hardcore. I was recruiting Joe to leave. He never would do it. And I just kept calling. I'm like, dude, I'm building a team. They're giving me the reins. What do you want? Russians, like, go get him. And we couldn't get him. He was so loyal.
Where were you at that point?
I was still at Intercom, but
you had to bring Intercom. Gotcha.
Yeah, we were rebuilding, and I was like, hey, I want to make the same way you wanted to go back because she said that to you. Yeah. I wanted the moment where I got to work with Joe again and not be his boss, but like bring him in to be part of what we were building.
Right.
I love the guy. And it was just like, it's funny how those things that they said to you on your final day stuck with both of us, because it really did stick with us. I mean,
I don't know if you have this too. It's given me a new dynamic of being a parent. I know, you've got kids, I've got kids.
Yeah.
Our boys are 9 and 11 now.
Okay.
The things I look back on from how old they are now, and then as we're talking through teens, 20s, 30s, it's not when someone sits you down and tells you a long speech or is like, I'm going to impart wisdom in you, young man.
No.
It's somehow those little nuggets that for whatever reason on that day with someone that you trusted, I trusted, somehow imparted something, but it's a bullet point. It's a nugget, and somehow that gets imprinted in your brain and becomes part of it. But that's amazing. Joe's the best.
25 years later.
Yeah,
it's 25 years later, and those things still stick with, like, the things that happened in my internship to this day play like so strongly in the way I go about it. We were talking about like just handing me a computer and we're like, hey, can you edit video? And I remember, I tell this story all the time. I had edited video in high school. We had a TV studio, but it was all hardware. There was no computers at that time. Yeah. And so you hand me, and I was like, yeah, I know how to edit video. And then you handed me a laptop and I was like, oh God, I don't know how to edit on that thing. I don't even know what that is, but I'm like, I'll figure it out. And I remember going home and figuring it out and like, okay, I got this now. Cause it was the same technique. It was just completely different maneuvering. And it was those moments where you go, well, yeah, but give me a moment, I'll figure it out. And those figure it out moments really propelled me in my career. And the same for you. Like, you didn't have any digital training. You were like, give me the computer, I'll figure it out and we'll build you a website.
This is the part of, I guess, life, I guess, the kind of male-female dynamic. I've heard so much of this of, there's something that somehow young boys get more than young girls. And it's that confidence of, I got it. I might not have it yet, but I'll figure it out. And overextended, this is a great Marianne line, any strength overextended becomes a weakness, and that can lead to arrogance and different issues. But in those moments, what you're describing, I know exactly what you were doing at that time. And I have such a positive memory of you being like, yeah, I'll figure it out. You may have stayed till at the radio station or taken that laptop home, worked till midnight.
All night.
And then you came back with an amazing product the next day, and you started cranking out the best highlight reels, sizzle reels, whatever you want to call them, that truly allowed people who weren't at these radio station events to enjoy them at home. Yep. And then this internet thing was getting going of like, we got to put content up there. Turns out pictures work well. Turns out video work well. By the way, same things work 25 years later.
Here we are.
You were able to jump into that new thing without being intimidated by it. The other part I'll say is your attitude wasn't, I guess I'll figure it out, as if it's a nuisance and a burden. You were excited to figure it out. You wanted to do it. And you could see in your brain that that's how you're wired, that you want to do that stuff. And I think that's such a core part of you. That's, again, to your point of like, those are the characteristics that help you. And it's great that you have them. And then look what's come of it. It's so cool.
It goes back to what you said, though, is because we were truly enjoying what we were doing every day. We were enjoying the people we were doing it with. We loved the work, and we saw it as, this is the career path I want to go down. And there's nothing that's going to stop me. I've been having this conversation around boundaries, right? And I actually was, my daughter and I had this conversation where she said, hey, I'm going to have real boundaries with my job because you don't have any, and I'm going to have some. And I said, I got it. I said, here's the difference between growing up, having everything been given to you, and looking at the world going, I have to go get everything I'm going to earn. And when we got to that radio station, because I hadn't gone to college, I've always looked at it. I had one shot. Like, I've got one shot and no safety net. And if this kid's going to give me a laptop and tell me I can edit something, well, I got to by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning figure this out, and I got to deliver it, because that could be the thing that breaks it. And, those were those opportunities. And the part of the story that I think is really important as it relates to me and you was when you got your shot to go to Star 93.7 to be the marketing director. You got one kind of take with me card, and you opened the door for me to get a full-time job. And that, I think, is one of the pieces that's happened a bunch in my career. And I know it's happened a bunch in your career, because Bev opened the door for you to get a job. So, talk to me a little bit about the things like the people you've taken along with you in your career. It doesn't have to be about me, but just in general, because you've done it in your career. What are the things you're looking for to say, hey, that's somebody I'm going to allow them to hitch them to my wagon, and I'm going to pull them into this opportunity with me?
It's interesting, because as we're talking about this, at no point are either one of us saying, I'm doing this because it's going to get me to the next step. No. This is a tactical move that I'm doing. That's a huge part of it. I love people. One of the core things we talk about going from sales to leadership, as I got the chance to build teams, I want people who love what they're doing, that their skill set that they like to do, that they're good at, matches what we need for this particular role at this particular company.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing those things of like, we kind of need this person's good at this. What if we connected them? Those are the ways that I think, again, mutually beneficial for a sales job, mutually beneficial for a role, for someone coming into a company. I want someone to be good at what they do, enjoy it, and I think they're going to do better work, and then the company's going to have better output as a result of it. So that's a huge part of it. As you ask about what I look for, I kind of have this mental thing kind of going of like, who's good at what, who did good at what, who enjoyed it, who was great to work with, who was easy to work with, who appreciates it. And then it's like, oh, we need another person to shoot. Oh, my buddy Drew does video editing on the side, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, great. Let's get him in here. Your piece, it's so many of those things that we're talking about, but it's with the attitude of wanting to do more. It was clear that you could take on more. And to your point about going from part-time to full-time, of course, everyone wants to have that transition. Everyone wants to go. And then it became, I saw how you operated with people. People loved working for you. You created a fun work environment. So then it became not just, can he do the job a little bit and get it going? He can build a team. Yeah. We needed someone to do that. And then it ended up growing very quickly. It wasn't just for one radio station. You did it for the whole cluster. Yeah. And then the AAF guys loved you, and then you were doing all sorts of stuff for them. And then the sports guys loved you, and you're getting K cards on TV, and you're doing all that. So all of that was from, and this is where I look back. I was very lucky. You were then also lucky, I think. I
Yeah.
don't want to speak for you, but in that environment where you could put your head down, work hard, and good things happen. I know a lot of other friends who put their head down, worked hard, and good things did not happen. And so I'm very aware of we were in the right environment, in the right way, with the right leaders above us. There is where I try and emulate what they gave us for others.
100%. Not to cut you off, but I also, when I tell people about it, radio was a beautiful industry at that time, because, as I say, they didn't want to spend a lot of money and they didn't want to bring in the top tier talent.
Great point.
So they were taking young kids and giving us a shot to shoot way over where we should have been playing. We were playing way over our skis. But what happened was they grew a generation of kids who became executives, because at 25, I was managing a team of 25. Like, that's crazy. Like, I had a massive team that I was running at 25 years old. I really had no right running. I was probably younger than that. And by 28, I was managing like a huge team and doing all these things. And by the time when I got to the NFL at 32, I was really 45 in experience, right?
That's
like
exactly right.
There. I had 10 more years of experience than I probably looked like on paper, but the radio station, and I know you were the same. I mean, at 25 years old as a marketing director at a top 10 market station, you were doing things that were way above what we were quote unquote qualified for, but we were qualified because we were going to figure it out.
But the other part I'll add to it, when I got the chance to do my first internship at KISS 108, I was told that most people do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday. And I was like, oh no, I kind of allotted the whole summer to this.
Right.
Now, again, I'm incredibly aware of, I had a financial situation that allowed me to do that. I didn't have a part-time job. So I will absolutely call that out.
Sure.
But the other part is I dove in and said, I want to do this. And you know this story, but within a month, I was asked if I wanted to go on Saturday night and produce Club KISS. I don't know how to produce a radio show. They're like, oh, hey, you plug in I forget what it was called, ISDN line or something. Yeah. You plug in ISDN and do it. And me and Artie, the one-man party, are doing 4 hours from a nightclub with people getting obliterated. I might have been 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to drive the KISS van home. I never had to drop alcohol all summer, even though everyone's pumping shots in front of us. And it was a fun broadcast. It was a blast. But I dove in and I did it. You did that same thing, and then you got the experience, and then people saw, okay, he can do more, and you delivered every time.
Yeah.
And that's what sticks with it. And then to the point of bringing other people on, they gotta get there, and they gotta do it and over deliver. I remember having a conversation with you about street teamers who said all the right things at the beginning, and a month in, their actions didn't match their words.
Correct.
And those people generally don't stick around, whether by their own selection, or whether by their boss or someone else on the team kind of nudging them, being like, this might not be for you.
And we also talked about the AT. I talk to this when I'm coaching companies now, is like, well, we got to treat everybody the same. Yes, I understand that from a corporate culture standpoint. But when I'm deciding who gets on the schedule more, it's going to be I'm going to put from a business perspective, I'm putting the A team out there first, and then we'll put the B team. And I may decide to split the A team into 2 teams and then have 2 A- teams, but the top 5 talent are getting the job first, because I want to make sure it's going to be the best for our clients and our partners. And I think that's a big part of it. And I do think that the journey of all of that stuff in the early days that we got to work together, and then even in Boston hustling, doing radio, really set the tone. So the whole impetus of this podcast. Oh, go ahead.
Can we click into just one more thing? Because you touched on it. I want to put a little bit more into this. Frugality.
Yeah.
The fact that you were able to take tools that don't cost a lot of money, but make something amazing out of it, is worth its weight in gold. And so the way that you took not the most expensive video camera among the cheaper video cameras.
Sure.
Premiere was probably the most money we ever spent on software when Adobe had it going. That was $600. And to me at the time, like, I had to go to my boss and ask to get that approved. Thankfully, he had a budget that had other stuff going on. He's like, yeah, just that sounds great. If you think it's worth it, do it. And it paid off in droves, because then we got sales out of it that were won because we had a sizzle reel to show people.
Yep.
But that part, so I'm part of a startup now in Hollywood here. It's a music startup.
Yeah.
And we're building a team. Doing it on the cheap sounds like we're trying to cut corners. It's not.
No.
It's just doing it in the right way, spending the right smaller amounts of money, instead of, oh yeah, we're going to hire a 6-figure creative agency to go launch the product. Absolutely not. That's not how a startup works. If you can produce great outcomes without spending maximum dollars, that skill is huge. And you've got that from the way that you started. And clearly it's stuck with you the whole time.
Well, I'll tell you the great story on that. I get to the NFL and we're building an in-house media team and an in-house content machine. And some veteran folks in the building tell me, oh, if you're going to do a daily talk show, video, audio, all this, you're going to need a couple $1 million in budget. I'm like, okay, talk me through it. Well, you're going to need a floor director. You're going to need 4 camera operators. And I go to Rushton and I go, hey, this is what they're telling me I need. He goes, okay, I want you to forget everything they just told you. Now go back to the closet at the radio station where you built that little video studio. How would you do it? And so I came back with a plan that had 3 robotic cameras, and I trained one. I actually, at the Dolphins, I had 2 producers. I had an audio producer and a video producer. I figured out how to streamline it. When I got to San Diego, we created the same show and I got it down to 1 producer. We were live on Fox Sports, San Diego. We were live on the website. We were live on radio. We were going to multiple distribution points with one kid running a multi-camera shoot, 1 producer, multi-cameras, B-roll running, graphics, the whole 9, guests coming and going on the phone, you name it. And now when you turn on ESPN and I'm watching, Pat McAfee show, I'm like, that's the show. It is literally talking heads. It's not rocket science. It's robotic cameras. It's all right. Pat's doing this. He's moving, zoom out. Well, it's all touch. Unbelievable. But I love it, dude. We could do this forever.
100%. Yeah.
The impetus in the whole thing of this show, as I shared with you, is, we were fortunate in our journey. You said that, and where we worked, and that we have that. I think this is my opportunity to give back in a way to show people the amazing people that I've encountered in my life and my career, and to share. There's so many lessons from sports and being on the front line or in the front office for teams. I see all these lessons that we now take to businesses, but people learn, whether it's playing sports, watching sports, working in the sports, and anything, that in taking that lesson that you then applied to your life. What would be your lesson from sports?
So when you invited me to be on, I was incredibly grateful and was just looking forward to reminiscing and just kind of going back down memory lane, which is always so fun, and we need to do more of it. But I was honestly stumped by this question. I've been thinking about this for a few days, and I was like, what can I bring up that's going to be there? And my first thought went to, sports and try hard and all those types of things. I ended up having to go to my sons, and then I talked about it with both my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old. And we came up with some good stuff about our younger son says, don't give up even if you're losing. And I liked that one. And then our older son said that it's not always about you. And I liked that one. But as I was talking through with them, it actually brought up something that very much ties in with what we've just been talking about, which is different types of motivation for different types of people. So I played all sports growing up, hockey in Boston, and then baseball, basketball, all those things. And it's really interesting that this picture happened to just pop up on my Google Photos flashback. It's me playing Little League in Brookline. The team happened to be the Dodgers. Now it's in LA. But I have very distinct memories of our coach from that team, Little League Dodgers, probably around 11, 12 years old. And at practice, we were in the majors. He would yell at us if he didn't think that we were working hard enough or we messed up a play. I'll go get someone from that other field. And he was pointing to the other field where they're either younger kids or the minors. I'll go get someone from that other field who wants to be here. They want to be here. You got to want to be here. You got to. And would berate us. And it was really unfortunate because he was also our hockey coach, and we didn't love that either. It was just such a negative motivating force. And I always remember, if I ever have kids, I'm not coaching like this. Mm-hmm. And I've been very lucky that our kids have always wanted me to coach, and we did baseball and basketball and now soccer, and they're into all sports. And I've always tried to coach them with positivity.
Okay.
And as I then started to work that into the teams that I've built at companies, whether it's Shazam or Spotify, I started to realize that there's a blend. And there was a great quote that I remember hearing someone talk about, where you can either motivate someone with positivity or motivate them with negativity. And it leads to the employee realizing, am I doing this to prove someone right, or am I doing this to prove someone wrong?
Sure.
And both have their place, but it turns out it's a lot better when you motivate with positivity. Yeah. Exactly how you said. Jim Rushton said to me, Joe Mazzy said to me, I want to prove them right. I feel stronger because they said that. I'm going to go out. Mary Ellen did that to me. Bev did that to me. I want to show that their faith in me will pay off. And that's an incredible motivating force. But I will also say at the appropriate time, a little bit of negativity goes a long way. And especially in sports, Jordan's the story you hear about all the time. We didn't make his team, blah, 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 blah. But there's other minor kind of micro slights that you do. I'm going to get that. And our younger, I forget, one of the sons said that about if I get hurt and someone tells me I can't do it, I was our younger son. He goes, I'm going to go in that game. I'm going to score a goal. And it was a little thing, even from a coach that he loves, had that little slight, like, I'm going to prove him wrong.
Well, so if it's always negative, but if it's always negative, right, it just becomes wallpaper. Where it's, I think that's what I've learned in leadership too, to echo that is if it's positive and I'm always trying to bring the energy and try to bring that. But every so often I'm like, God, I'm disappointed in that. I don't want, it's not out of fear, but I don't mind you being that you realize that I'm a little disappointed in the output or the effort, and not for lack of trying enough, but I can still be disappointed. I think that's some of the things, Katie, who's my business partner, people used to always say to her, oh, it must be so much fun to work with Wayne. And she was like, no, not even close to fun. She's like, he sets very high standards and we all love working together, and we never want to let that stand, not just him. We don't want to let the standard for the brand down. Yep. So we will, that's not, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a lot of fun. We love what we do, but it's not like we're playing in a circus all day because he's a good
venture. I guess that within that, you two have an understanding of what that high expectation is, and that you're able to work under that umbrella when you say things to her that she knows you're trying to maintain that high standard. And I bring these into performance reviews.
For sure.
And a compliment sandwich comes up. I think that's garbage. I think when someone knows that you're coming at this from a standpoint of you believe in them, you have high standards, you know they can do better, and you're going to hold them to that, and you're honest about it, they appreciate it in a different way. And to your point, it's not blanket negative. It's actually not blanket positive either. It's finding the right ways contextually to bring these things up, but they know that you care. They know that you're trying to make sure they do better, and they can do better, and you've seen them do better. And this is a couple ways that they did it. And I've seen ratios. I don't even know it's a ratio. I just think it's that overall mentality. If you bring that into it, that's going to go so much further to help people understand where you're coming from. And then ideally they react better from that.
Peter, I watched at one point in my career, a leader not tell his staff the challenges that they were bringing to the organization. And it continued and it continued. I later had some of that staff report to me, and we had to have very honest conversations to the point of, it wasn't a compliment sandwich. It was a straight honest. And what I've learned to that end is honesty. Those employees in the moment were a little jarred, a little friction, a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
4 months later, we're performing so well. And later in their career, I love watching them soar. I love watching them succeed. And I look back and I go, God, what a disservice you were doing to that employee by not letting them know where they were letting the organization down because you just felt bad because they were nice people. When I shared it with them and they turned and all of a sudden just started running, and I watched their earnings go up. I watched their families have that. To me is everything. Like, I'd rather be honest with you than sit here and lie to you and then watch you not succeed 5 years from now because nobody had the honest conversation with you today.
I think that's a great point. And I would venture a guess that the knock-on effect of that was their other teammates noticed that they weren't being held to account. And all of a sudden the standards go down. We've seen this happen with other teams where all of a sudden someone has the conversation. Why was that person allowed to goof off? Why was that person allowed to continue with suboptimal? A players don't want to be around B and C players. They want other people to come up. And by the way, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I think that's the other part that I've gotten more comfortable with over time. Listen, if someone is ever shocked by a firing, that is not good. It's a failure on me. It's a failure on the pool. And I look back on some times that I did not do that properly.
Okay.
I've learned a lot from that. I've had a couple of times where I had to let people go and they were genuinely surprised. And I look back, I'm like, oh my God,
awful.
This is not good. This was not good. But if you work through that plan, and through that plan, they still aren't able to meet it. And then you just have the conversation, this might not be the right role for you.
Sure.
And let me help you get to a place where your skill set will better match what is being expected. And hopefully we'll get you there, because I have a high standard for myself. I love what I do. I enjoy what I do. I want others to do that. And I've gotten a much fuller view of that over time. And it's not easy to do, but to your point, if you do it with empathy, if you do it the right way, if you hold the standards and everyone has that, it's a great context to work with it.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we got to transition to segment 3. When you work in sports, it's inevitable that at one point you're going to sit on the hot seat. And so today you're sitting on the hot seat.
Oh, wow.
These are rapid fire questions.
You didn't tell me about this.
I didn't. I never do. Okay,
Okay.
rapid fire questions. And so just quick answers. What comes to top of mind, and just
Great.
we're going to fire through them and have a little fun. This is a little bit looser. Favorite career moment?
Being backstage in front of the stage shooting at Kiss concert.
It's awesome.
Every time. Every time.
Scariest moment?
This isn't scariest, but it comes to mind. Backstage, I believe it was a Monster Jam. You might have been there. We're editing in the room where we're right next to the production room, and the headliner literally didn't get on his plane.
I was there. It was DMX.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yes.
DMX. I tell this story often. Go ahead, continue.
My memory of it is someone has to come in and tell the program director, who I believe was Cadillac at the time, DMX isn't showing up. Oh, this is going to go in a different direction. I forgot who stepped up.
It was Diddy.
It was Diddy.
It was Diddy.
So I'll tell this story, and it's going to obviously speak to one part of it and not getting into the other part of it. We may get canceled for this. But Diddy, I remember him walking in and going, "Hey, heard he wasn't showing up. I got you."
Yup.
He put on a double length set.
Yup.
And everyone walked out of there hyped, so excited, and he stepped up and did it. Can't speak to any of the other stuff.
No.
Moment.
I tell that story often.
The way that he did that, I actually talk about a lot. Like, he heard what happened. He's like, "I got you. I'm going to over deliver." It was amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a great one.
What's your version of that?
I remember that. All right, so you and I, both kids from Boston, transplanted to the West Coast. East Coast, West Coast.
To live West Coast. I'll go back and visit. I'll take my winters in small doses, and I'll come back to sunny and 70.
Best place. I say Boston's a great place to be from, but I live in paradise.
Exactly.
Do you miss Boston?
I miss the people. I miss the people, and I miss visiting. I now love going back to Boston as a tourist and staying at Copley, Weston Copley, walking around everywhere there, popping around.
Is incredible in Boston. Or he stayed in the Seaport this summer. Phenomenal. I was so impressed with what Boston has done in the last 10 years. Blown away by how phenomenal that city is. I'm so very proud when people say they're going to visit now. I'm like, I love what Boston has become. It really is. But I'm with you, dude. Favorite artist you've ever worked with?
Ooh, that's a hard one. My favorite, I would say the Struts. Those guys are my kind of ride or die, if I ever use that phrase. I don't think I ever have, so I don't know why that came out. But I've known them for 10 years now. They are the nicest guys from England. They work super hard. They're super creative. And one of our best partnerships came out of a passing statement when Luke, the lead singer, goes, "I always want to learn how to ride a Harley." And I called my friend at Harley, and he's like, "Oh, I'll send a motorcycle trainer to work with him on the road." And that led to so many other things. But because they were just trying to do fun stuff and are always creative and great to work with, I just love working with the Struts.
Love that. Favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, that's another hard one. I always love going back to Budapest. There's a familiarity and a welcoming home, but it's hard to not go to Maui. I mean, that's the other part of being on the West Coast. We get to swap the Caribbean for Maui.
Yeah.
Anything Kaanapali is just paradise. You want to talk about?
I'm opposite. I want to go back to the Caribbean.
Really?
I enjoyed Hawaii, but I don't know. The Caribbean just calls me.
Where? Which spot?
BVI. I just love the Virgin Islands. Yeah. I got to go to Jose Cuervo Nation. I broadcast live out of there for 5 days.
All right, tone it down. All right.
Living in Tortola, and they would shuttle us over to this private island. And I was like, this is, the warm water anyways. I mean, I dress like it every day. It makes me happy. Person you text with the most? Wow.
I mean, it's my wife, but that's not going to be, that's a pretty standard answer. I'm trying to think who from my past. I'll honestly say, and this is not the answer you're looking for probably, I love that I'm able to text with anyone, most people I'll say, that I've been friendly with over the years and pick up right where we left off.
Yeah.
You're in this boat. Frankie's in this boat.
Yeah.
My buddy Allie, who I've known since 3rd grade, is in San Francisco now. My buddy Joe in Detroit. Any of those friends from over the years, there's a camaraderie, there's a kinship that like we pick up and text, and the old stories come back, or we just go
rapid
up on the fun jokes.
Quickly. Yeah, it goes rapid fire pretty quickly. You know, it's like, yeah, it's great. All right, last one. Best place to see a concert.
Oh, the Troubadour in LA is phenomenal. I think it's like 500 people. So if you can see an artist on the rise there, don't miss that. And then God, the Greek, as they get bigger, outdoor venue in LA is just absolutely spectacular.
Love it. All right. And the last segment is where what you and I mean, we've been doing it a lot here, but it's really just providing that value back. So kid can skip to segment 4 and go, all right, here's where I'm going to get the gold. Here's where I'm going to get.
Oh God. Don't set the bar that high.
No, it's, this is the, somebody starting their career in the entertainment or in the sales space today. Number one rule they need to keep in mind.
I honestly, I think to try and put everything we've talked about into a couple smaller bullets. Curiosity followed by hustle and tenacity will take you far. Don't be afraid to jump in. Don't be afraid to try new things. See what works. And then if you like it, if you're adding value, keep doing it.
Yeah.
The hustle to get there, the tenacity to stick with it, to me are the core parts that will lead you good places.
Yeah. Next question is, if somebody wanted to break into the entertainment industry, where do they start?
By doing stuff. There's a great line about in the 80s, it was a lot harder to get your song noticed. But if you got on the radio in those days, you had a higher likelihood of being successful. Now it's much easier to get your stuff out there. It's just much harder to get noticed. Yeah. So I talk about this from music all the time. When I was at Spotify, people ask, how do you get noticed on Spotify? You just got to be making stuff. You got to tell your friends about it. You got to have your friends tell their friends about it. You got to build momentum. So whatever you can do to keep momentum going. And if that's, you put out a song, have 10 people listen to it, then 12, then 14, then 16, then it'll be 16 again, but then it'll be 30. Keep that going. If you're just starting out and you're sending LinkedIn notes, you're sending emails, you're sending direct messages on Instagram, and you sent 5 this week, send 10 next week, send 12 the next week. Whatever you can do to have the momentum go up in a positive momentum direction, that's going to help you a lot. And just try and find ways to do that. The other thing I'll say is surround yourself with like-minded people who are also working that hard. The people you surround yourself with will guide you in many ways. And there's a reason you and I are still friends. There's a reason you and I work together, and there's a reason we kept working together. We both have that sort of drive that attracts other people, and you're going to be more motivated as a result of that.
It's funny, when you were talking, I could hear both sides of the conversation, which was, if I was an artist trying to break through, it could also apply to if you're a kid who wants to work in this industry. Those exact same lessons are the same thing. And the reason why I started this podcast is because the same thing to be an athlete, it's the same lessons. Like, the lessons are there, but it's really the same thing. So find your people, right? Once you're all in it, like our 20s working at a radio station, I tell everybody, my line is, you either love it and live it or hate it and leave it. Because if you're doing this for any other reason other than love,
100%.
you're in the wrong place.
100%.
And that love is what drove the success, because it was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And I'm literally sleeping at this radio station every night because I love it.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. You and I are fortunate to have passions that lead to an area that's monetizable in the way that we've described. The people in my hindsight that I look back on that I bummed for more than anything is the people who couldn't make a living at their art. So I will absolutely stipulate that if you're coming at this from an artistic standpoint, there's a lot of things you can control, and unfortunately there's some stuff you can't. And that's the same for everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
But
when I tell kids who say, hey, I want to be a content creator because I ran social and I want to do that. It's like, well, you don't. Back in the day, we needed a radio station to give us a shot, to give us a handle that we could work on. Today, you have a phone.
Start making stuff.
A million times.
Both my kids in YouTube channels. They love doing it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And if you like it, keep doing it. And to your point, the self-selecting out, I think, is really important too. If it's fun,
Very
go try
important.
something else. We're very lucky. There's a lot of things, and barrier of entry is lower. Technology is cheaper. You can get a cheap secondhand phone if you need to these days. Just start making it. No one's ever said like, "Ooh, that was shot on the best camera. It's better." No, go find a way to do it.
Tell a great
It's
story.
important.
People will engage. All right. Second to last question. Would you change anything about your career?
No,
Nothing.
I mean,
Good.
I'm sure if I thought about it, my wife and I had this conversation around, would we change anything about before we met each other? It's the same thing for my career. Honestly, the trials and tribulations, the faxes I sent out to try and get a job at a radio station in Syracuse, and the non-responses, the time I dropped off my resume to Blockbuster Video down the street in West Roxbury and never heard back. They're all part of what makes you the fabric of who you are, and you learn from it. And it's all part of what gets you to where you are. So I know I'm very grateful for all parts of it. And I think in whatever way it leads you to who you are, leads you to where you are, leads you to who you're around. I love how it's evolved.
And I will say this too. It's easy now. I say this often. When things are going really well, it's really easy for me to remember that advice. It's in the bad moments when things are down that you have to also, I have that playing in my head all the time of like 5 years from now, I will be thankful this happened. Like I had a pretty tough year one year and it was brutal. And today I actually have a client that went through something very similar. And I was able to get on the phone with them and say, let me take you through my experience and tell you how that actually helped me. And I promise you, call me in 3 years and be like, I'm thankful it happened.
Very unfortunately, I've had to have a very similar conversation with many people the past 3-4 years as layoffs have happened.
Yeah, of course.
It's a weird thing that most people, when they get laid off, end up in a better situation. But it's that attitude you bring to it. How do you get through it? How can you come in? And it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be furious. That's totally fine. It's how you react to it down the line. Yeah, it's interesting. As you ask what I would change in my career, the hearts that stick with me are some of those moments where could I have done a firing of someone better, a layoff of someone better? Those stick with me. But the part where I give myself grace is not let myself off the hook, but a little bit of grace is I learned from it. Yeah. And if I hadn't learned from it, I think I probably wouldn't be as self-reflective and we wouldn't be talking about this. But to have at least learned from it and say, I'm disappointed in myself of how I handled it, but I also give myself grace as I was 27, 32 at some of those moments. Learn from it, evolve from it, and try and do it better now.
Yeah, no, I think that's great and fair. That's the last question. You know me, always got to end it on a high note and a positive note. And I think it's important for people as they see what you've built and what you're building and what you've done in your career. What's your favorite part of what you get to do?
I get to have a career out of what I love. We started with music. We'll end on music. I love music. The music business, I was never good at the music part. Turns out I can do some things with the business part. And whether that's building a team for a company, building my own company, bringing people together, building a team around a product that we're all excited about, that we all want to be a part of. Those are the highlights to me. And those are the things that I genuinely love. And I'm very lucky that I get to make a career out of it.
I love it. Dude, thank you so much.
Can I tell one more story? Sorry, there's one other thing. So there was like a 1 and a 1A to the question about what lesson from sports, and it ties into this Bruins jersey. You and I are both very lucky. We get to go to lots of concerts. We get to go to lots of sporting events, and we get to sit in all sorts of great seats now. When I was growing up, my family didn't have a ton of money. And for Christmas every year, actually the same aunt and uncle who helped me get the internship at the radio station in Hungary when they were still living in Montreal, every year they would ask me what I wanted for my birthday, what I wanted for Christmas. My birthday happened to be January 1st. So there was always a double dip situation there if it was helpful. And I would always say to them, if you want to combine my Christmas and my birthday, I wanted to go to a Bruins game. I would love to go to a Bruins game. For whatever reason, my parents couldn't quite afford it, or we couldn't quite put it together. My aunt and uncle would give me a ticket to go to a Bruins game. Now, looking back, my mom would bring me, and we couldn't leave my brother at home, so my brother came. So the three of us would get to go to a Bruins game. To get this ticket, we had to take the T down to North Station, walk to the ticket office at the old Boston Garden and buy 3 single tickets to 1 Bruins game. We would inevitably end up literally in the last row, sometimes with a pole blocking us. And I would joke, like, we would go early and set up mirrors if we had to. But we would go, minute the doors open, we would watch warm-ups, we would take it all in, and I watched the people up front show up late in suits. And I was like, who are these morons? What are they doing? They're missing out on the experience, and they're wearing suits. What are they doing? I had such disdain for it. Sure. But I appreciated that one game a year so much. And I always said, I'm never going to show up late. I'm never going to wear suits. I had a moment in my life where I did, because I was very lucky. We got handed tickets. We got invited by others. We got to go in different ways. And I always tried to keep that appreciation with me and keep that lightheartedness of, like, I still need to appreciate this. And now it comes back with my kids. My kids want to be early for every warm-up. They're on the glass for the Kings fans, trying to get pucks. And so that appreciation of, yes, we are now very fortunate and we get access to these things and we do get to have better seats. But I try and keep that little kid part of me in there and keep that appreciation a part of it. That's a huge part of it too.
You and I are very similar, my friend. I tell people that all the time. We got to go to 1 Red Sox game a year, and it was my everything. I waited for it. I looked forward to it, and it was just such a big part of my childhood. And I talk to teams about that today of, remember, there is a family coming here today that this may be their only time. One time. And I learned that working at Disney, right? These families save up for years for this day. And by the way, in sports and music, it's the same exact thing. And I love that. That's a great way to wrap this up, is the appreciation, honestly, of friendship, of finding people who think and go about their business the same way, but also understand that 2 kids who grew up where we grew up, getting to do the things we do, living on the West Coast, like, it's awesome. I'm so proud of you, dude. Like, what an amazing run, and you're continuing to build really cool projects. And as you do that, I always just say this here, you continuously look for opportunities to help me build my business. I'm doing the same for you, and we all do that for each other. But how much I appreciate and really respect everything that you always
The feeling is incredibly mutual. I shout out to my uncle Andre and my aunt Andrea for helping instill that initially. It clearly keeps coming through today. I love that we remain as close as we are, despite the fact that we don't live in the same city anymore. I love that we both made it to the West Coast, like you said. The more that we can collaborate, the more that we can just hang out, good things come from it. Thank you for inviting me on. This is a blast. I love you like the brother that I never really had officially, but you've always felt like a brother through time. And it's been great staying in touch over the years. And this was so much fun.
Awesome, dude.